Hi guys, Mr. Hescock's back, ready for your next lesson. We just finished chapter 11, section 5, and it was on the biomes. You had a very short homework assignment. There was only 5 questions. Let's go over that. Once we're done with this, we'll talk about your opening question, what biome has conifer trees, and then we're going to talk the rest of the period about ecological succession. So let's go over your homework quick. All right, the coldest biome out of these choices is the taiga. If there was polar ice, you could have put that, but I did not give you that as a choice because there's not that much stuff living there. The biome that is hot and wet. Well, wet thinks water. Tropical rainforest. The biome that occurs in coastal areas with mild rainy winters is this one you had to read because it's so far away from here, I don't even talk about it much. It's the chaparral. Why do more kinds of animals live in the deciduous, where we live, than in the tundra? Well, the tundra is cold and dry. So the deciduous forest is warmer and wetter and has more plants. More plants equals more organisms there to eat those plants. Why are deserts and tropical rainforests so different? They both are generally located around the tropics of the world, except there's a lot of rain in the rainforest. There's very little rain in the desert. So let's go back to your notes. Remember, guys and girls, I'm going to talk about just the important stuff. There's video clips, and you have to fill in your note packets. Go back and watch the videos. They give you further explanation that I don't have time to do and can't film myself showing you videos. Your review are the questions on page 269. Let's get started. All right, so this subject is what is succession? Well, think about the word success. Success means that you've achieved something. In the environment, there are stages of what we call succession. The end is something called climax, kind of like the high point of a book is called the climax of a book in reading class or English class. Succession is the slow change in populations of organisms over time. The plants change, and as the plants change, the organisms there change with it. The plants can change the soil. As the soil changes, the plants will change even more. The plants will then dictate what types of organisms are there. The first type of succession is primary succession. Primary succession only happens on bare rock that has never had anything happen to it. Everything here in Pennsylvania where we live is almost always secondary succession. The stages of succession, and I'll try and show you these in a picture here in a second. The first stage is open field. After a farmer plows his fields and stops farming those fields, grasses will grow in the fields. That's the first stage. So you get grasses and weeds that grow there. These are often called your pioneer plants, your grasses and weeds. Grasses and weeds are what we call pioneer species. Pioneer species are the first to move into a new area when life has been removed. After the pioneer species in your open field, then we're going to move into your shrubs. So if you have some grass, the shrubs are tall enough that they block the light. Well, what's bigger than a shrub? What's bigger than a shrub is where we start to hit our trees. The first one, if you were in Mr. Macro's shop class, they would call this softwood. Your book calls it pine forest. Those are softwood trees. So basically, here's your shrubs. Now suddenly you've got these big evergreen trees that block out the light, and you end up with these softwoods. Over time, the softwood trees are going to die out because the bigger, slower growing hardwood trees like oaks, maples and beech that we have lots of in this area are going to grow up really big. And they actually cover up and block out the light from the softwoods and basically cause the softwood trees to die because of a lack of light being blocked away from them. In our area, the hardwood forest is the last stage in succession that we call a climax community. This is succession in a pond. Succession can also happen in a pond or lake. We live near Canoe Lake, Glendale Lake, Lake Racetown. All of them, within the last 20 years, have been what we call dredged. Basically, over time, the bottom of the lake fills up with dead plants and animals and silt. Silt is mud and sand brought in from the streams and rivers that run into it. And over time, the pond goes, you go from a rocky bottom pond to some plants growing, to you've got a more advanced pond that's starting to get kind of yucky, to a marsh or a swamp where there's very little water and lots of silt filled in. Eventually, if the pond runs long enough, it can actually become a field. The pond will become completely filled in and the stream will actually move off and work its way towards succession. So, secondary succession, which is common here in Pennsylvania, we have our large trees. Something happens. In this case, it's a fire. It could be logging company goes through. You could chop down the forest and put in a farm. Or it could be other things that can cause secondary succession, like a flood. It could be a severe drought might kill off all of the plants. There's lots of things that can kill off all of the organisms in the area. So once everything settles from the fire, there's your open field. You got grasses starting to grow. Your shrubs grow over the grasses and kill them. We have softwood forests and eventually hardwood forests here at the end. All right, write one thing on your notes that can cause succession. I'll give you a few seconds to do it now. All right, what'd you write? What are some things that could cause succession to basically reset? Do you remember what we talked about? Let's make a list. First and foremost, fire. Could be a severe flood. It could be a glacier could move through, which you won't have anymore since we're in the Ice Age. It could be a severe drought. It could be deforestation. It could be a whole host of other things. Oh, you don't have to worry about this here, but if you lived in Hawaii, maybe. It could be a volcano erupts and buries all that you have. So there's lots of things that can cause succession to restart. So with that being said, that's all I have for today on succession. Make sure that you understand that succession is fluid. It changes as the organisms change. Now, succession here in Pennsylvania, where we live, leads to a climax hardwood community. But if you went to succession in, say, Kansas, Kansas is very, very flat and very much the grasslands. Why doesn't it get trees? It's too dry. There's not enough rainfall in Kansas most of the years to get the trees. So succession might stop at a grassland there. Or succession in Canada stops at the softwood forest because the taiga is where your conifers are. Did you get your warm-up question of conifer trees? Conifer trees are cone-bearing trees. They are the softwoods that we talked about today. That's all I have for you today. Thank you guys. Make sure you read, fill in your notes, do the questions. See you next time.